I see absolutely no reason why we should be even slightly tolerant of this. This is extremely aggressive behaviour by a hostile state that Keir Starmer has spent most of the last 12 months trying to suck up to.
We are at the start of another Westminster China spying saga. The husband of a Labour MP was one of 3 men arrested on suspicion of assisting a foreign intelligence service. He's the lobbyist David Taylor, who runs the Asia House think tank. His wife is Joni Reid. She says she's never seen anything to make her suspect her husband has broken the law. She also says she has, quote, never been to China or spoken on China-related matters in the Commons. You might recall the last time there was a Westminster-linked China spying case, it eventually collapsed. Now, we don't know any details of the case, but we can speak now to Tom Tugendhat, the Conservative MP and former Security Minister. Good morning.
Morning, Kate.
Now, we have to be careful. There has been an arrest here, but more broadly, how concerned are you about China's reach into UK politics and current affairs?
Well, the thing that concerns me is now for a very long time we've heard about various different instances, which this is just the latest one. And the response that we seem to be met with is sort of deep concern, deep concern, deep concern. Well, fine, but I'm not really interested in deep concern. What I'm interested in is action. You know, it is certainly true that this has been going on for a while and it's not a partisan point. You know, there's Conservatives, there's Labour, there's, you know, others have been caught up in it in various different ways. The difference is that when I was Security Minister, we brought in laws that were able to deal with it. And sadly, we left them on the statute books with the intention of bringing them in. Sadly, the electorate had a different view on that. And so, you know, they're sitting there waiting to be used and not being used.
I mean, is this, I suppose the context is important here. You used to be Security Minister. You do understand this stuff. Is this par for the course? Do we just have to expect that this is what China does and that occasionally these people may well be arrested? Or is there a specific increase?
Well, I don't think we should be too precious about it, but I think what we should be looking at this is like burglary or like violence against people in our community. You know, just because it's the sort of thing that happens doesn't mean we should tolerate it. We absolutely shouldn't tolerate it. And frankly, it is pretty unusual. I mean, there are very few states that spy with the industrial determination of China. China is really pretty unique, in fact. First of all, they've got the capability. Secondly, they've got the numbers. And they really put a huge amount of effort into it. And, you know, some of it is in order to steal corporate secrets, which leads to people losing businesses, losing jobs, British people losing taxes, and that means closing hospitals and schools. And some of it is in order to repress people who are here, Hong Kongers, Chinese students, people like that, who the Chinese state wants to silence. I see absolutely no reason why we should be even slightly tolerant of this. This is extremely aggressive behaviour by a hostile state that Keir Starmer has spent most of the last 12 months trying to suck up to.
So therefore, is there an increasing argument to look again at the super embassy? I mean, even though MI5 and MI6 have both said that consolidating, I think it's 7 sites that China currently has into one would be more effective, do we need to look again at that decision?
Sorry, nobody credible has said publicly that there is any truth in consolidating all of those sites into one would make the counter-espionage work any easier. It's complete rubbish. You know, the idea that the Chinese operate their intelligence networks solely from the embassy is clearly not true. You know, we know that, they know that, everybody knows that. Would it make it slightly easier for diplomatic recognition? Sure, maybe. But apart from that, it makes absolutely no gain. And the reality is, what a lot of this is about signalling. One of the ways in which China works, in which they operate, is they try and convince their own nationals and other nationals that it simply isn't worth resisting, that there's absolutely no point in resisting the inevitable rise of China. Well, first of all, China isn't rising. There's huge internal domestic problems that Xi is repressing. You can see that by the various different ways he's fired generals recently. But secondly, the problem with this embassy is not just its location next to cables and so on, but the fact that it sends a very clear message that we are willing to tolerate a super embassy on our territory opposite the Tower of London with a big red flag over the city. What kind of a message do you think that sends, not just to the Chinese dissidents who are likely to be feeling threatened by this, or indeed to British businesses who are likely to feel that they have no choice, but to British or rather to foreign investors in the UK who are going to see or going to believe that this is us being bought and sold to Beijing. It's really completely unacceptable.
We've been talking this morning about what's happening in Iran. We've also been talking about the potential arming of Kurdish militias, Kurdish forces. How concerned are you about what we see happening right now and the UK's role or lack of role in it?
Well, of course I'm concerned. I'm deeply concerned for friends in Tehran at the moment. I'm deeply concerned for friends in the United Arab Emirates, in Bahrain, in Kuwait, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. And I won't surprise you to hear I've been in touch with many of them over the past 72 hours.
And are they cross with Keir Starmer? Because the front page of the Times today, there's a real feeling that allies are suggesting the UK has been weak here.
Well, I'm in Delhi right now for a regional dialogue with various people from, well, in fact, from around the world who come to Delhi every now and again for the Raisina dialogues. Now, I'm here because I think it matters that we have British MPs talking to people and understanding what's going on. I can tell you that my initial talks with individuals last night and this morning have been reflecting what the Times has written, that many people in the region had an attitude that, look, you can have a base here, but part of the deal on you having a base is you get range and we get protection. Well, if we don't get protection, what the hell's the point in the base? You know, if you're the United Arab Emirates, if you're Bahrain, if you're Kuwait, you've got a very, very long-standing relationship with the United Kingdom. And you know that the United Kingdom, with its T-45s, its Type 45 destroyers, has got the single most capable air defense weapon in the world, capable of shooting down ballistic missiles in various different ways. And you haven't deployed it. I mean, it does really beg the question, what's the point in the alliance? And so there's a lot of people here who are feeling very, very let down by the actions of the UK government in recent days. Now, a lot of people are sympathetic to the idea that Britain didn't want to join the initial wave. People are very sympathetic to the idea that they didn't support America and Israel launching the strikes. But that's not the same question. Once those strikes were launched, or once you knew they were going to be launched, and we were all pretty certain 3 or 4 weeks ago that they were coming at some point, why didn't we have destroyers in the region? Why didn't the Defense Secretary put a submarine back into the Middle East, back into the northern Indian Ocean? He could have turned the one that was going to Australia, he could have turned it around. Those are decisions for the Defence Secretary. They're not decisions for the Prime Minister. They shouldn't be decisions for the National Security Council. And sadly, what we're seeing is our policy is being governed by human rights lawyers, not by people who are concerned about the defence of Britain and our allies.
Tom Tugendhat, Conservative MP, former Security Minister. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And I think that crystallises the issue. This is not about Trump and Starmer, not about the legality of the war. This is about how ready were we for something that's going to happen. Everyone knew it was going to happen. And why didn't we have a destroyer or a submarine in the area when we could have done? And we keep asking that question, and we've not had a satisfactory answer from anyone in the government.
Well, I suppose the problem is we did have a submarine, but it just went straight past.
Straight to Australia.
Yeah.
Which is not currently at war. The last time we checked,